Nanach, nachman, meuman. 7 beggars. Oh yeah, I will tell you how people once rejoiced. There was once a king who had an only son. The king wanted to transfer the kingdom to his son during his lifetime, so he made a banquet. And of course, whenever a king makes a banquet, it is a very joyous affair, especially on this occasion, when he is transferring the kingdom to his son during his lifetime. It was certainly an extremely joyous affair. Oh yeah, the royal ministers were there, and all the dukes and nobles, and they were having a grand time at the banquet. There was great celebration in the entire country, for the king was transferring the kingdom to his son in his lifetime, which is a great honor for the king. The rejoicing was very great. There were all types of entertainment, musical performances, comedy shows, and the like. All types of entertainment were there at the banquet. At one point, when the rejoicing was very intense, the king stood up and said to his son, and since I am an astrologer, I see that you will eventually lose the kingship, so take care that you do not become sad when this happens. You already been happy. When you would be happy, I will also be happy, but even when you are sad, I will still be happy. Oh, that you are not king, for you are then not fitting to be king. Oh, since you are unable to maintain yourself in a state of joy when you lose the kingship, but when you will be happy, then I will be extremely happy. But when you will be happy, then I will be extremely happy. The son took over the kingdom with a firm hand. He appointed his own ministers, dukes, nobles, and an army. The king's son was wise, and he greatly loved wisdom, so he kept great sages in his company. Whoever came to him with some nugget of wisdom received very great esteem. He gave honor and wealth for that wisdom as each person wished. To whoever wanted money, he gave money, and to whoever wanted honor, he gave honor, all for the sake of wisdom. And since wisdom was so important to him, everyone began to study it. The entire country devoted itself to wisdom. Those who wanted money did so in order to receive money for it, while others did so in order to get esteem and honor. But since the entire country devoted itself only to wisdom, they forgot the strategies of war. They were all busy with wisdom, and all became very wise. The least of them would be considered the greatest in another country, and the wise were thus very extraordinarily wise, but on account of their wisdom, they lost their faith, and they convinced the king's son of their ideas, and he too lost his faith. The rest of the countrymen did not lose their faith, since the depth and subtlety of the wisdom prevented them from penetrating it. So it did not harm them. But the wise men and the king's son lost their faith. The king's son, since essentially he was good, since he was born from good stock and possessed good and upright character traits, would occasionally ask himself, where in the world am I? What am I doing? He would then groan and sigh over having fallen into such perplexities and gotten so confused. He would sigh deeply. But as soon as he began again to use his rational mind, those heretical wisdoms returned to assert themselves. This happened several times. Whenever such thoughts arose in his mind, he would groan and sigh, but as soon as he began to use his rational mind again, those heresies rebounded. Now it came to pass that all the people of a certain country fled. In their flight they passed through a certain forest, where a boy and a girl went lost. One person lost a boy, and another lost a girl. They were young children, about 4 or 5 years old. They had nothing to eat. So they shouted and cried, for they had nothing to eat. Meanwhile, a beggar passed by carrying his bags of bread. Oh yeah, meanwhile a beggar passed by carrying his bags of bread. These children approached him and tagged after him. He gave them bread to eat, and they ate. Where are you from? He asked. We don't know, they answered. Since they were young children, he went to walk away from them, but they asked him to take them with him, and no, I will not take you with me, he said. Suddenly they noticed that he was blind, and this amazed them. Since he is blind, how is he able to get around? And their very amazement was in fact amazing, since they were only young children, but since they were clever children, this amazed them. Oh, but he blessed them, that they should be like him, that they should become old as he is, old as he is. He left them some bread to eat and went on. The children understood that God is protecting them and had sent this blind beggar to give them food. The children understood that God is protecting them and had sent this blind beggar to give them food. But the bread eventually finished, and again they began to shout for food. It became night, and they went to sleep. In the morning they still had no food. Oh, so they shouted and cried. A deaf beggar then passed by. They began speaking with him, but he gestured with his hands that he does not hear. He gave them some bread to eat and went to go on. They wanted him to take them with, but he did not want to. And he too blessed them that they should be like him. He left them with more bread and went on. Eventually this bread also finished, and they again shouted. This time a stuttering beggar passed by. They began speaking with him, and he stuttered in response. They did not know what he was saying. He understood what they were saying, but they did not know what he was saying since he stuttered. He gave them bread and went to go on. He too blessed them that they should be like him, and he went. He too blessed them that they should be like him, and he went as above. Then a beggar with a crooked neck passed by, and the same thing happened as above. Then a hunchbacked beggar passed by, then a beggar without hands, then a beggar without feet. Each one of them gave them bread and blessed them that they should be like him, exactly as above. Eventually their bread finished, so they began walking towards civilization. They reached a certain path and walked along this path until they reached a certain village. They reached a certain path. They reached a certain path and walked along this path until they reached a certain village. The children went over to one of the houses, and the residents had compassion on them and gave them some bread. They continued and went over to another house, and these people too gave them bread. They continued on from door to door, realizing that this was a good idea for them. They agreed between them to always remain together. They made large sacks for themselves to go around from door to door, and they also attended all celebrations such as circumcision and wedding feasts. Eventually they went on elsewhere. They went to cities where they also went from door to door. They also went to fairs where they sat with other beggars near the walls holding a plate. Eventually the children became well known among all the beggars. They were all acquainted with them and knew that they were the children who had gotten lost in the forest. One time there was a large fair in a certain city. And the beggars went there, and these children went there as well. The beggars then had an idea to make a match between these children, that they should marry each other. As soon as some of the beggars mentioned this, all of them thought this to be an excellent idea, so they sealed the match. Only but how would they make them a wedding? After discussion, they decided that on the king's upcoming public birthday party, they would all go there. They would all go there, and whatever they would collect there, such as bread and meat and bread, would go towards the wedding, and that is what they did. All the beggars went to the king's birthday party and asked for bread and meat. They also collected the leftover meat and bread from the party. Then they went and dug a big ditch. A big ditch that would hold 100 people. They covered it with reeds, earth and garbage. They all entered and made a wedding for these children, bringing them under the chuppah canopy. The rejoicing was very great. The bridegroom and the bride were also very happy. But then they began to recall the kindnesses that God had done for them in the forest, and they wept and yearned greatly. If only the first beggar who gave us bread in the forest was here, the blind one. Immediately as they were yearning so greatly for the blind beggar, he called out and said, "Here I am, I've come to your wedding, and I give you as a wedding gift that you should become old as I am. Initially I had only blessed you with this, but now I'm giving it to you as an outright gift, that you should live long lives as I have. And you really think that I am blind? I'm not blind at all. It is only that the entire time of the world's existence is not even like the blink of an eye for me, since he does not focus his sight on the world at all. That is why he appears to me blind, because the entire time of the world's existence is not even like the blink of an eye for him. Therefore, focusing on even seeing this world is not possible for him at all. I am very old, but I am truly young. In fact, I have not begun to live at all yet. I am very old, and not only do I say this, for I have the approbation of the great ego. Let me tell you the story. Once people boarded many ships and went out to sea. A storm wind came along and smashed the ships, but the people were spared. They reached a tower and climbed up to the top, where they found all food, drink, clothing, and everything else they needed. There was a bounty of good things there, and all worldly pleasures. At some point they said to one another that each one should tell an old story, whatever was one's earliest memory. In other words, what he remembers from when his memory first began functioning. There were old and young people there. They gave the oldest one among them the honor of being the first one to tell. He said, "What can I tell you? I even remember when they cut the apple from the branch." No one knew what he was talking about, but there were some sages there who said, "This is certainly a very old story." Then the next one was honored to speak. The second one, who was younger than the first, said, That's an old story. I also remember that, but I also remember when the candle was still burning. Those present there said, "This story is even older than the first one." They were amazed that the second one who was younger than the first. Remember this story that was older than the first story. Then the third one was honored to speak. This third one, who was even younger, said, "I even remember when the fruit began to form. I even remember when the fruit began to form." They said, "The story is even older than the fourth one who was even younger. I even remember when they took the seed to plant the tree." And the fifth one who was even younger said, "I even remember the sages who conceived of and invented the seed." The sixth one who was even younger younger, said, I even remember the taste of the fruit before it entered the fruit. The seventh one, the seventh one, who was even younger, said, I even remember the fragrance of the fruit before it entered the fruit. The eighth one, who was even younger, said, I even remember the appearance of the fruit before it was impressed upon the fruit. And I said, the blind beggar telling this whole story was then only a young child, but I was also there. I said to them, I remember all these stories, I remember all these stories, but I also remember nothing, but I also remember nothing, but I also remember nothing today. Yes. They said, this is an extremely old story. This is an extremely old story, more than all the rest. And they were very amazed that a young child should remember more than all the rest. Just then the great eagle knocked on the tower and said, stop being such paupers. Return to your treasures and use your treasures. He said that everyone should leave the tower in order of their age. Whoever is older should leave first. He led everyone out of the tower. Taking me, the young child, out first. For in fact I was actually older than them all. Thus whoever was younger he took out first, and the eldest one he took out the last. For whoever was younger was actually older. The oldest among them was really the youngest of them all. The great eagle then said, I will explain to you the stories that each of you told. The one who told that he remembers when the apple was cut from the branch meant that he remembers when his umbilical cord was cut right after birth. The second one who said that he remembers when the candle was still burning meant that he remembers when he was a fetus, when a candle burnt over his head. The one who said that he remembers when the fruit began to take form means that he remembers when his body began to take form after conception. The one who said that he remembers when the seed was taken to plant the fruit means that he remembers when the father's seed was emitted during intercourse. The one who said that he remembers the sages who invented the seed means that he remembers even when the seed was still in the mind, for the seed originates in the mind. The one who said that he remembers the taste means the soul, means the soul. The taste means the soul, the fragrance means the spirits, and the appearance means the essence of the soul. And the young child who said that he remembers nothing is above the marvel, for he remembers even what preceded the soul, spirit, essence of the soul, which is an aspect of the ayin, nothingness. Then he said, return now to your ships, which are your broken bodies. They will be rebuilt. Return to them now. Then he blessed them. To me, said the blind beggar who had been only a young child when this had happened. The great eagle said, as for you, come with me, for you are like me. You are extremely old, yet you are extremely young. You have not even begun to live at all, yet you are extremely old. I too am the same, for I am old, yet am still young. Thus I have the approbation of the great eagle, and now I give you my long life as a wedding gift. With that awesome joy and elation broke out. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman. And now I give you my long life as a wedding gift. With that awesome joy and elation broke out on the second day of the 7-day celebration. The children recalled the second beggar, the devil F1 who had kept them alive. By giving them bread they wept and yearned. If only the deaf beggar who kept us alive was here. In the midst of their yearning for him, he suddenly appeared and said, here I am. He fell on their shoulders and kissed them. And now he said, I am giving you as a gift that you should be as I am, that you should live good lives as I have. Initially I had only blessed you with this, but now I am giving it to you as an outright wedding gift. And do you really think that I'm deaf? I'm not deaf at all. I'm not deaf at all. It is just that nothing in the entire world is of any value to me, that I should listen to people talking about how they lack it. For all voices are caused by lack. Each and every individual crying out over what he is lacking. Even all the rejoicing in the world is all on account of lack. One rejoices over the fact that what one had been lacking has been filled. But as for me, nothing in the world is of any value that tells of any lack. The tales of any lack of it should enter my ears. Nothing in the world is of any value that tales of any lack of it should enter my ears. But as for me, nothing in the world is of any value that tales of any lack of it should enter my ears. For I live a very good life that lacks nothing. For I live a very good life that lacks nothing. And I have an approbation from the country of wealth that I live a good life. Oh, that I live a good life, and the beggar's good life consisted of eating bread and drinking water. There is a country tall that has great wealth, possessing great treasures. Once they gathered together, and each one began to brag about his good life, about how he lives the good life. Oh, each one told about the lifestyle of his good life. I told them, oh, the good life that I live is beyond the good life that you live. Proof is, if you are living a good life, let's see if you are able to save a certain country. For there is a country with a garden, and in that garden are fruit that have all types of tastes in the world. All types of fragrances are also there, as are all types of appearances, all colors and all flowers in the world. Everything was there, in this garden. Oh, now this garden had a gardener, and the residents of this country lived a good life in the garden. But the gardener went lost, and everything that was there in that garden withered and died, since no one was taking care of it. Yet they were still able to support themselves from the weeds of the garden. But then a cruel king attacked this country. He wasn't able to harm them directly, so he went and ruined the good life that this country had from the garden. Oh, he did not directly ruin the garden, but left 3 groups of servants in this country, ordering them to do as he instructed. By so doing, they ruined the sense of taste, such that anyone who tasted anything would taste a putrid carcass. They also ruined the sense of smell. All fragrances would henceforth stink like galbanum, and they ruined the sense of sight. They darkened people's vision as if by clouds and fog. This was all accomplished by their doing as the cruel king had instructed them. So now, if you live the good life, you show me if you are able to help them. But I warn you, if you do not help them, the ruination of that country may harm you as well. So these wealthy people went to that country, and I accompanied them. Even along the way, each one was living his good life, for their treasures were with them. But as we approached that country, things began to spoil for them. They realized that their sense of taste and other senses had spoiled. I told them, if now, when you have not even entered, your sense of taste is already spoiled, what will happen when you enter? What will happen when you enter? And how will you ever be able to help them? But I gave them some of my bread and water, and they tasted all the tastes and fragrances and appearances in my bread and water, thus healing their senses that had been spoiled. Now the residents of the country with the garden began to think about what could be done to heal the sense of taste, etc. that had gone bad in the country. They came to the conclusion that their lost gardener and whose merit they had lived a good life is probably from the same root as the people of the country of wealth who also lived a good life. So they decided to send messengers to this country of wealth, for they would surely help them, and that is what they did. They sent out messengers to this country of wealth. They sent out messengers to this country of wealth, and as the messengers were on their way, they encountered them, the very people of that country of wealth, who were on their way to them. The people asked the messengers, "Where are you going?" "We are going to the country of wealth," they answered, "to seek their help. We ourselves are from the country of wealth, and we are coming to you," they have answered. But I said to them, "You anyway need me, since you cannot go there to help them. So you remain here, and I will go with the messengers and help them." I went with them, and I entered the country into a certain city, and saw how people were walking along telling wisecracks. Others would gather around, until there was a whole crowd exchanging wisecracks. They were all smiling and laughing. I paid closer attention and heard that they were telling vulgar jokes. One said something vulgar, another said a more subtle vulgarity, another was laughing and another was enjoying it. Then I continued on to a different city. I saw two people quarreling over some business transaction. They went to court, and the court ruled that this one was absolved and the other one liable. After they left the country, they began arguing again and agreed that they were not satisfied with that court and wanted a different court. After they left the court, they began arguing again and agreed that they were not satisfied with that court and wanted a different court. So they chose a different court and went through litigation in the second court. After that, one of these litigants began quarreling with someone else, and these two chose yet a different court. They quarreled in that court as well, and chose several other courts until the entire city was filled with courts. I watched this and realized that this was because there was no truth in this place. A judge would distort the law and show favor to someone who would later on show him favor. They're full of bribery and empty of truth. Then I saw that there is so much sexual immorality going on there that it's commonplace, has made it their norm. I said to them, "This is why your senses of taste, smell and sight have gone bad." That cruel king had left behind those three groups of servants to ruin the country. They went around speaking vulgarities among themselves, thus introducing vulgarities into the country. On account of vulgarity, the sense of taste was ruined, so that everything tasted like a putrid carcass. They introduced bribery into the country, which caused their vision to darken, and the appearance of things was ruined. Since bribery blinds the eyes of sages, and they introduced sexual immorality into the country, in this the sense of smell, and this ruined the sense of smell. Therefore you must see that the country is cleaned of these three transgressions, and search for those people and banish them. When these three transgressions are eradicated, not only will your senses of taste, sight and smell be healed, but the lost gardener will also be able to be found. They did as advised. They began to uproot those three transgressions from the country. They sought after those people And when they would catch someone, they would ask him where he was from. And eventually they caught the men of that cruel king, and banished them. The country was then cleaned of those transgressions. Then a commotion broke out. Can it be that this lunatic who has been going around saying that he is the gardener, and everybody has assumed him to be a lunatic and thrown stones at him to chase him away? Can it really be that he is indeed the true gardener? So they went and brought him before them, that he is before those entrusted that cleaned the country, among whom was the deaf beggar. And I said, he is certainly the true gardener. The this country was healed by this beggar, hence concluded the deaf beggar, I have the approbation of the country of wealth, that I live a good life, for I healed that country. And now, well, I am giving you my good life as a gift. And now, well, I'm giving you my good life as a gift. With that great rejoicing and intense elation, broke out, and each of the beggars came to attend the wedding, giving as a wedding present what each had originally only given as a blessing. The first one gave long life as a gift, and the second gave good life as a gift. On the third day, the couple again thought back, and they went and wept and yearned. If only the third beggar, the stutterer, was here. Suddenly he appeared and said, here I am. He fell over their shoulders and kissed them, telling them as above, I initially had only blessed you to be like me, but now I am giving you, as a wedding gift, that you should be like me. And you really think that I am a stutterer? I'm not a stutterer at all, only that all mundane speech that is not praise of God lacks perfection, which is why he appears to stutter. He is unable to speak mundane words that lack perfection. But in truth, I'm not a stutterer at all. On the contrary, I am very wondrous. I am a very wondrous, eloquent speaker. I'm a very wondrous, eloquent speaker. I can speak in wondrous homilies or poetry. There is no one on earth who would not want to listen to me. And these homilies and poems that I know are composed of all wisdoms. And I have the approbation of the great man, called the true man of kindness. And there's an entire story about this. Once all the sages were sitting together, and each one was boasting about his wisdom. This one boasted that he had discovered with his wisdom how to produce iron. Another boasted the same about a different metal. Another boasted that he had discovered how to produce silver, which is more valuable. Another boasted that he had discovered how to produce gold, while another boasted that he had invented weapons. Then one boasted that he knew how to make these metals from materials other than those from which these metals are usually made. Other than those from which what these metals are usually made. Then another boasted about different wisdoms, by way of which such things as saltpeter, by way of which such things as saltpeter, and gunpowder were discovered. Each one boasted about his wisdom. Then one of them spoke up and said, I am wiser than all of you, for I am as wise as a day. No one understood what he meant to say. Wise as a day, he explained to them. All your wisdoms can be condensed into a single hour. Though each and every wisdom is deduced from a different day, related to what was created on that specific day. For all wisdoms describe interactions. For all wisdoms describe interactions, which is why each wisdom is deduced from the specific day on which the elements interacting were created. Nevertheless, with a certain wisdom, all these wisdoms can be condensed condensed with a certain wisdom. All these wisdoms can be condensed into a single hour. But I am wise like an entire day. Then I spoke up and asked, like which day are you wise? Then I spoke up and asked him, and have asked him, like which day? Oh, yeah, are you wise? He, that is me, the stutterer, is wiser than I am. He, that is me, the stutterer, is wiser than I am. He responded, since he asks, like which day? But I am wise like any day you choose. But the question now arises, why the one who asks, like which day, is wiser than the one, who is as wise as any day chosen? Regarding this, there is an entire story regarding this. There is an entire story. Now this true man of kindness, now this true man of kindness is indeed a very great man. Halvai the stutterer go around and collect all the true acts of kindness, and then bringing them to this true man of kindness. And time comes into existence, for time itself is a creation by virtue of true kindness. So I go around gathering all the true acts of kindness and bring them to the true man of kindness. And there is a mountain on which lays a stone, and from this stone flows forth a spring. Now everything has a heart, the world has an entirety. Oh, it also has a heart, and the world's heart is an entire structure with the face, hands, feet, etc. But the toenail of the world's heart is more hardy than the heart of anything else. But the toenail of the world's heart is more hardy than the heart of anything else. Now this mountain with the stone and the spring stands on one side of the world, and the world's heart stands on the opposite side of the world. This world of heart stands facing the spring, constantly yearning and pining, yearning and pining, yearning and pining very deeply, yearning and pining very deeply to reach this spring with extremely intense longing. It cries out to be able to reach that spring, and the spring also yearns for it. But the heart is weak for two reasons. The first is that the sun pursues it and burns it, since it yearns to reach and come near the spring. And the second is on account of the intense yearning and pining that it so deeply, and the second is on account of the intense yearning and pining that it so deeply always longs for the spring. Its soul goes out for the spring. Its soul goes out for the spring. Its soul goes out for the spring, crying out with deep yearning, crying out with deep yearning, since it constantly stands facing the spring. Now when it needs to rest a bit to catch its breath, a large bird comes along and spreads its wings over it to protect it from the sun. Then it is able to have some rest. But even then, as it rests, it still looks towards the spring and yearns for it. So since it yearns for it so much, why does it not just go over to the spring? The answer is that when it tries to approach the spring, it can no longer see the mountain's peak, and would then no longer see the spring. And were it not to see the spring, it would die, since its very life force is from the spring. When it stands opposite the mountain, it sees the mountain peak, where the spring is. But as soon as it approaches the mountain, the peak disappears from its sight, and it can no longer see the spring, and it would die. And were this heart to die, the entire world would cease to exist. For the heart is the life-giving force of all things. There is certainly no existence without a heart. It cannot reach the spring. It stands from afar, yearning and crying out. It stands from afar yearning, it stands from afar yearning, it stands from afar while yearning, and crying out. It stands from afar yearning and crying out. It stands from afar yearning and crying out. It stands from afar yearning and crying out. And this praying is not within time of mime, it is completely beyond time. The only time that the spring possesses is the gift of a day that the heart gives it. But as the end of the day approaches, the spring would have no more time and would die, causing the world heart to die, and the entire world would then cease to exist. So near the end of the day, as they begin departing from each other, they begin telling each other wondrous homilies and poems with deep love and very great yearning. The true man of kindness watches over this, and when the day is just about to end, at the precise moment it is going to be over, this true man of kindness gives a gift of a day to the art. The art then gives it to the spring, and the spring then has more time. And when the day comes, from wherever it comes with very wondrous homilies and poems that contain all wisdoms. And there are differences. There are differences between the days, for there is Sunday and Monday, etc. And there are the new moon and festival days, and there are the new moon and festival days now. All time that this true man of kindness possesses comes through me, the stuttering beggar who is telling all this. For I go around and collect all the true acts of kindness from which time arises, and therefore he is even wiser than this wise one, who is as wise as any chosen day. For the very essence of time and days comes into existence through him, through the stuttering beggar who collects the true acts of kindness that give rise to time and brings them to the true man of kindness, who gives the day to the art, which gives it to the spring, which sustains existence for the entire world. Thus the very essence of time, together with homilies and poems that contain all wisdom, comes to existence through the stutter. And so I have the approbation of this true man of kindness, that I can say homilies and poems that contain all wisdom, for all time, together with homilies and poems come into existence through and I give this to you as an outright wedding gift, that you should be like me. Great joy and elation then broke out. After the celebration of that day, the couple went to sleep. In the morning they began to yearn for the beggar, with the crooked neck. Suddenly there he was, and he said, here I am. Initially I had only blessed you that you should be like me, but now I give you as a wedding gift that you should be like me. And do you really think that I have a crooked neck? My neck is not crooked at all. Rather, I have a very straight neck, a very beautiful neck. However, the world is filled with exhalations. Exhalations of wasted breath, and I do not want my own exhalation to add to this wasted breath, which is why his neck appears crooked, since he twists his neck away from the nonsense of the world, so that his exhalation will not be wasted breath. But the truth is that my neck is very beautiful, a very amazing neck. Proof being that I have a very amazing voice. Proof being that I have a very amazing voice. Nanach, nachman, meuman. All types of worldless sounds in the world. All types of worldless simplest sounds in the world I'm able to produce with my voice, voice. For I have a very amazing neck and voice. I have the approbation of a certain country. There is a country that is skilled in the art of music. They are all involved with this art, even the little children. There is no child there who was unable to play some musical instrument. A child in this country would be considered a great master of music in a different country, and the masters, besides the king and the musicians of this country, are truly very extraordinarily masters in this art. Once the masters of that country were sitting around and boasting, each one about his musical skills. Boasted that he could play a certain instrument. Another boasted that he could play a different instrument. Another yet a different instrument. Another boasted that he could play several instruments. And another that he could play all the instruments. Then another boasted that he could replicate with his voice the sound of a certain instrument. Another that he could replicate the different instruments. And another that he could replicate several instruments. Another that he could replicate the beating of a drum so precisely that it sounded like the real beating of a drum. And another boasted that he could replicate with his voice the shooting of a cannon. And I was there as well, so I spoke up and said, my voice is better than all of yours. My voice my voice is better than all of yours. As proof, if you are so skilled in music, let's see if you can help these two countries. These two countries are several thousand kilometers apart. When night falls, the people of these two countries cannot fall asleep. This is because when it becomes night, everybody begins to wail loudly, men, women, and children. If there were a stone there, it would melt. This is because at night they hear the sound of a bitter wailing, which causes them all to wail, men, women, and children. This happens in both countries. The wailing sound is heard in both countries, and everybody wails. Though the two countries are several thousand kilometers apart. So if you are such masters of music, let me see if you are able to help these two countries, or if you are able to replicate the sounds. That is to replicate the precise sound of the wailing. Those masters said to me, the beggar with the crooked neck, can you take us there? Sure, I can take you there, I answered. So they all got ready and set out to go. They traveled and arrived at one of these countries. At nightfall it happened again. Everybody was wailing terribly. Even these masters were wailing, and they realized that they could certainly not help these countries. Then I said to them, at least tell me the source of the sound of wailing. Do you know? They asked me. Of course I know, I answered. There are two birds, a male and a female, and they are the only pair of such birds in the world. The female went lost, and the male went to search for her. While she is searching for him, they both search for each other a long time until they both got lost. And they realized that neither would find the other. So each one remained where it was and built a nest. One of the birds built a nest near one of these two countries, not very near, but as a bird's voyage travels, it was near. For the people of that country could hear the bird's voice from where it had built its nest, and the other bird built its nest near the other country, near enough that her voice was heard. When night comes, this pair of birds begins to wail in a very loud wailing sound, for each one is wailing over the other. This is the sound of wailing that these two countries hear, on account of which the people also wail and are unable to sleep. But the masters did not want to believe me, so they asked, can you take us there? Surely, I answered, but you will not be able to come near there, since when you will approach there, you will not be able to bear the sound of wailing. Oh, even here you weren't able to bear it, and you were forced to wail yourselves. But if you would go near there, you would be totally overwhelmed. But even during the day, it is impossible to go near, since it is impossible to bear the joy that is there. Since it is impossible to bear the joy that is there, yeah. During the day, birds gather around each of these separated birds, consoling and lifting the spirits of each of them in very joyful ways, consoling them by saying that they may yet find each other. Thus during the day it is impossible to bear the great joy that is there, but the joyous sounds of the birds is not near, is not heard from afar, but the joyous sounds, but the joyous sounds of the birds is not heard from afar, only when one comes near them, whereas the sound of the couples wailing at night is heard from afar. Thus it is impossible to go there. Though the masters then asked him, can you rectify this situation? Yes, I can rectify this, for I can replicate all sounds in the world. That is, he could replicate any sound in the world precisely, making his voice sound however he wishes. I can also throw my voice so that it is not heard at all where I am, but is heard only ever at some distance. Thus I can throw the female bird's voice so that it is heard near you where the male bird is, and similarly throw the male bird's voice so that it is heard near the female bird, and in this way bring them back together and rectify everything. Since they didn't believe him, he took them into a forest. They heard the sound of someone opening a door and then closing and locking it. Oh, then they heard a rifle being shot and a dog being sent to catch whatever was shot, the dog tossing and turning in the snow. The masters heard all this but saw nothing. Neither did they hear any noise at all coming from the one with the crooked neck. The truth was that he was throwing these sounds, which is what they ever heard. They thus witnessed he was able to precisely replicate any sound and to throw it, so he is able to rectify everything. With the rebbe, he told no more of the story and obviously omitted things here. But the rebbe told no more of the story and obviously omitted things here. Thus concluded the beggar with the crooked neck, I have the approbation of that country, that my voice is very amazing. I can make all types of sounds in the world, and now, well, I give you, this is an outright wedding gift, that you should be like me. With that there was very great rejoicing and elation. On the fifth day the couple was also rejoicing, yet they recovered. The hunchbacked beggar and yearned for him deeply. If only the hunchback beggar was here, if he were here, the rejoicing would indeed be exceedingly great. If he were here, the rejoicing would indeed be exceedingly great. Suddenly there he was, and he said, here I am, I have come to your wedding. With that he fell on their shoulders, hugged and kissed them, and said, initially I had blessed you to be like me, but now I give it to you as a wedding gift to be like me. And in fact I am not hunchbacked at all. Rather I have shoulders that are in the category of a little that holds a lot, and I have approbation for this. People were once talking and telling stories, each one boasting of possessing this power of a little that holds a lot. One of them was smirked and laughed at by the others, while the boasts of the others regarding this power were accepted. But the power of a little that holds a lot that I possess exceeds that of all the others. One of these people boasted that his mind is in the category of a little that boasts that holds a lot, for he contains in his mind thousands and tens of thousands of people, together with all their needs and behaviors and all their experiences and movements. Everything about them he contains in his mind. Thus he is in the category of a little that holds a lot, since his mind contains so many people and details. But they laughed at him and said that people amount to nothing, and he himself amounts to nothing. And another one spoke up and said, I once saw an instance of a little that holds a lot. I once saw an instance of a little that holds a lot, like this one. I once saw a mountain covered with a huge amount of rubbish and human waste. I found it strange. Where did all this this rubbish? Oh, and human waste on this mountain come from? But there was a man near the mountain who said that it was all from him. This man lived near that mountain, and he always threw his rubbish and excrement on this mountain. He made it a waste dump, and on account of him, there was so much rubbish and waste on that mountain. Thus, this man is an example of a little that holds a lot, for he produced so much waste. Another one boasted that he possesses this power of a little that holds a lot, for he owns a plot of land that produces such an abundance of fruit that when an accounting is made of how much fruit it produces, the results show that this land is inadequate for such an amount of fruit, for there is not enough of space to contain all those fruit. Thus it is in the category of a little that holds a lot. His example was accepted, since indeed it is in the category of a little that holds a lot. Another person said that he owns a very wondrous orchard that produces fruit. Many people, including nobles, travel to visit this orchard, since it is so beautiful. Nanach, nachma, meuman. During the summer, many people, including nobles, come from far just to walk around in it. However, the orchard is not big enough to contain all the people. Thus it is an example of a little that holds a lot. His example was also accepted. Then another one said that his speech is in the category of a little that holds a lot. This is because he is the secretary of a great king. Many people come to see the king. This one, to praise the king. Another with requests, and so on. It is certainly impossible for the king to give each one of them an audience, but I am able to condense everything they all have to say into a fewer words. I tell the king these few words in which contain all the praises and requests of the few people. Everything they all have said is condensed within my few words. Thus my speech is an example of a little that holds a lot. Another one said that his silence is in the category of a little that holds a lot. This is because there are many detractors and informants who gossip about him very much. But however they denounce, talk about, and accuse him with their gossip, he refutes it all with his silence. One short silence of his is an answer to it all. Thus his silence is an example of a little that holds a lot. Another claimed that he is in the category of a little that holds a lot because he is a very small man, and he leads a certain blind pauper who is a very big man. Thus he is a little that holds a lot. For the blind man could slip and fall, but he supports him by leading him. Therefore he is a little that holds a lot, since he is a small man supporting a blind man. I was also there, and I said, yes, you all possess an aspect of a little that holds a lot, of a little that holds a lot. And I understand everything that you were alluding to. And the last one who boasted that he leads the big blind man is the greatest of you all, is the greatest of you all. Yet I am way and beyond all of you together. The one who boasted that he leads the big blind man was alluding that he guides the moon through its orbit. The moon is represented by a blind man, since it has no light of its own. It has nothing of its own. He was boasting that he leads the moon, although he is small in the moon's orbit is very large. Furthermore, all earthly existence depends upon the moon, since the earth needs the moon. Thus he is indeed in the category of a little that holds a lot. However, my power of a little that holds a lot is beyond all of yours together. And here's the proof. A certain group of people was once inquiring into the phenomenon that each and every animal prefers a different type of shade in which to rest. Each and every animal chooses a certain type of shade and seeks to rest specifically in that type of shade. Similarly, each and every bird has a specific type of branch on which it likes to rest. So they investigated if they could find some tree in whose shade all types of animals rested. All types of animals choose and prefer to rest in the shade of this tree, and all types of birds rest on its branches. Eventually they discovered that such a tree exists. Nach, nachman, meuman. They wanted to travel to that tree, since the wondrous bliss that exists there, or near that tree is beyond imagination. All birds and all animals are there, none harming another. All the animals intermingle there and play with each other. All the animals intermingle there, play with each other. And it is certainly an extremely great pleasure to be near that tree. So they inquired into which direction they would have to travel to reach that tree. They began to argue about this point and could not come to any agreement. One said in this direction to the east, another said to the west. Oh yeah, another to here and another to there. They could not come to an agreement in which direction they needed to go to reach the tree. Wise men then came along and said, oh, why are you inquiring into which direction to go to the tree? First inquire into who are the people who will be able to reach the tree. Not everyone can reach this tree, only someone who possesses the traits of the tree. For this tree possesses 3 roots. 1 root is faith, a second is awe, and the third is humility. Truth is the trunk of the tree. 1 root is faith, the second is awe, and the third is humility. 1 root is faith, a second is awe, and the third is humility. Truth is the trunk of the tree from which the branches emerge. Truth is the trunk of the tree from which the branches emerge. Thus only someone who possesses these traits is able to reach the tree. Now there was a very strong bond of unity between the people of this group, and they did not want to disband from each other, that some of them would go to the tree and others would stay behind. Not all of them were worthy of going to the tree, for only some of them possessed these traits, while others did not. They all postponed the trip for the other. They all postponed the trip for the other members of the group to work hard on themselves to attain all those traits, so that they could all be worthy of going to the tree. And indeed, they worked hard on themselves until they all attained these traits, at which point they all agreed upon going to the tree in a certain direction. At which point they all agreed upon going to the tree in a certain direction. They set out together, and after traveling for a while, they saw the tree from the distance. Looking closer, they realized that the tree is not standing in space at all. The tree was not taking up any space at all. But if the tree is not in space, how can they get to it? I was there with them, and I said to them, I can bring you to the tree. This tree indeed takes up no space, since it is completely beyond space. Even the category of a little that contains a lot is still within space, for it takes up at least a little space. Although this little space contains a lot, it still takes up some small space. However, the aspect of a little that contains a lot that I possess is beyond space altogether, for at this point space does not exist at all. For I can carry you all to this tree that is completely beyond space. The hunchbacked beggar was in the category of an intermediate between space and beyond space. Was in the category of an intermediate between space and beyond space, for he is in the highest category of a little that contains a lot, representing the very edge of space, after which there is no space at all. For from there upwards is totally beyond space. Thus he is able to carry them from within space to beyond space. Understand this. I then took them and carried them to the tree. Thus I have their approbation that I possess the highest level of a little that contains a lot. I have that I possess the highest level of a little that contains a lot. I have their approbation that I possess the highest level of a little that contains a lot. And for this reason he appears to be hunchback. He carries some of a watch, for he is in the category of a little that contains a lot. And now I hereby give you as a gift that you should be like me, an exceedingly great boy. Annihilation then broke out. Nanach, nachman, meuman. On the sixth day they were also rejoicing, but yearned. If only the beggar without hands was here. If only the beggar without hands was here. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Oi, suddenly there he was, and he said, "Here I am, I have come to your wedding." He too told them as above, kissed them and said, "You think that I have a disability? In my hands I have no disability in my hands at all. I indeed have a power in my hands. Oh, but I do not use the power in my hands in this world, for I need this power for other things. And I have the approbation from this world, for this, from the water castle. Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman. I was once sitting together with some people, and each one was boasting about the power in his hands. One boasted of a certain power in his hands, another of a different power. Each one boasting about the power in his hands. Then one boasted that he has so much power in his hands that even after he shoots an arrow, he is able to draw it back. Although he has already shot the arrow, the arrow, he still has the power to draw it back. I asked him, what type of an arrow can you draw back? For there are 10 types of arrows corresponding to 10 types of poisons. In other words, before one shoots an arrow, it is dipped into a poison, and there are 10 types of poisons. One type of a poison does so much harm, another type harms more, and so on. Or for all the 10 types of poison, each one more harmful than the previous one. These are the 10 types of arrows, for there is actually only one type of arrow. Only the different types of poisons into which they are dipped makes them 10 types of arrows, which is why they are called the 10 types of arrows. This is why I asked him what type of arrow he is able to draw back. I also asked him if he is able to draw back the arrow only before it has reached its target, or even after it has reached its target, or even after it has reached its target. To this he answered that he is able to draw out the arrow even after it has reached its target, But regarding which type of arrow, he answered that he is only able to draw back a certain type of arrow. If so, I said to him, then you are unable to heal the princess, since you are only able to draw back one type of arrow. Then another one of the men boasted that he has so much power in his hands that when he takes or receives something from someone, he is really giving something to him. Thus he is a charity giver. Which type of charity do you give? I asked him, and he answered that he gives a tithe. If so, then you are unable to hear the princess, for you have no way of getting to her, since you can only enter through one of the walls surrounding her, so you cannot reach her. Then another one boasted that with the power in his hands, he is able to transmit wisdom to each of the world's leaders. They each require wisdom, and by laying his hands upon them, he is able to do this. But which wisdom are you able to transmit with your hands? I asked him, since there are 10 types of of wisdoms? He answered me, a certain type of wisdom. If so, I said, then you are unable to heal the princess, since you are unable to assess her pulse, for you are only ever able to diagnose one type of pulse. Then another one boasted that he has such power in his hands that when there is a storm, he is able to hold it back and then normalize its force with his hands so that it blows pleasantly. Which type of wind are you able to hold back with your hands? I asked. For there are 10 types of wind, and he answered me, a certain type of wind. If so, I said, then you are unable to hear the prince's sense. You are unable to play before her more than one type of melody. For there are 10 types of melodies needed for healing, and you are able to play only one of those 10. They all asked then me, and what is your power? They all asked, then me, and what is your power? Nanach, nachma, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachman, meuman. Nanach, nachma, meuman. They all asked then me, and what is your power? I can do what you are unable to do. All those remaining 9 that you are unable to do, I can do, and I have a story about this. Nanach, nachman, meuman. There was once a king who desired a certain princess. He tried in many ways to catch her until he finally succeeded. But after that, he had a dream in which she was standing over him to kill him. He awoke, distressed by the dream. He called for all his dream interpreters, and they interpreted literally. The dream would come true literally, and she would kill him. The king did not know what to do. He was pained by the idea of killing her. He was irritated by the idea of banishing her, since someone else would take her. This really bothered him, since he had invested so much effort to get her, and now she would fall into someone else's hands. And even if he banishes her and someone else takes her, it is even more likely that the dream will come true, and she will kill him, since she would now have someone to help her. And he was afraid of the dream to simply keep her, so he didn't know what to do. Eventually his love for her began to lessen on account of the dream, continuing to fade as time went on. Her love for him also diminished gradually until she loathed him, at which point she fled. The king sent out to catch her, and they returned with information that she was near the water castle, and they returned with the information that she was near the water castle. This was a castle of water, around which are 10 walls, one inside the other, all of them of water. Even the floor inside the castle is of water, as are the trees and fruit. Everything is made of water. It would be redundant to tell of the beauty and uniqueness of the castle. It is certainly a very wondrous novelty. It is certainly a very wondrous novelty. It is certainly a very wondrous novelty. A castle made of water. Of course, it is impossible to enter this castle, for whoever would enter would drown in the water, since it is entirely made of water. Now after the princess fled, she reached this castle and was walking around it. The king's men thus reported to him that she was walking around the castle, and the king went with his army to catch her. When the princess saw this, she decided to run into the castle. She preferred to drown in the water than that she would be recaptured only by the king and forced to live with him. Or furthermore, perhaps she might survive entering the water castle. When the king saw her fleeing into the castle, he said, if that's what she wants. So he ordered his men to shoot her, and if she dies, she dies. They shot at her and all the 10 types of poisoned arrows. Nanach, nachmu, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachmu, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachmu, nachman, meuman. They shot at her, and all the 10 types of poisoned arrows penetrated her. But she continued fleeing into the castle, entering it and passing through the gates of its water walls. She passed through all. She passed through, she passed through all of the 10 walls of the water castle until she had reached all the way inside, where she collapsed unconscious. But I can heal her, but I can heal her, but I can heal her. Whoever lacks all 10 types of charity is unable to pass through all 10 of the walls, for he would drown in the water. Thus the king and his army pursued her and drowned in the water. But I am able, but I am able to pass through all 10 walls of water. Now these walls of water are the ocean waves that have solidified lava like walls. Now these walls of water are the ocean waves that have solidified lava like walls. The winds hold back the waves and lift them up. The waves, which are the 10 walls, are permanently standing there. But it is the winds that hold them back and lift them up. But I am able to enter into all 10 of these walls and to draw out of the princess, and to draw out of the princess all of the 10 types of arrows. I also know all of the 10 types of pulses through my 10 fingertips. Through each fingertip of the 10 fingers, one can know one of the 10 pulses. Through each fingertip of the 10 fingers, one can know one of the 10 pulses. And I am also able to heal her by way of all, and I am also able to heal her by way of all the 10 types of melody. Thus I am able to heal her. This is the power that I possess in my hands. And now I give this to you as a wedding gift. And now I give this to you as a wedding gift. With that great joy and intense elation broke out. With that great joy and intense elation broke out. With that great joy and intense elation broke out. It is very difficult for me to tell this story, but once I have begun it, I must finish it. There is not one single word in this story that has no intentional meaning. There is not one single word in this story that has no intentional meaning. Anyone knowledgeable in the holy literature will understand some allusions. For instance, it speaks about arrows and about the power in the hands to draw back arrows. This is alluded to in I will grasp justice with my hand, Deuteronomy 32:41, upon which Rashi comments, a human being shoots an arrow and cannot but draw it back, but God shoots an arrow and can draw it back. And charity represented by the walls of water, which were the ocean waves, is alluded to in your tzedakah. Charity is like the ocean waves. Isaiah 48:18, and the wind that he was able to hold back in his hands is alluded to in who collects the wind in his palms. Who collects the wind in his palms. Proverbs 34, which is connected with melody. The Kutumaran 54, the 10 types of melody are the 10 types of pulses. Are the 10 types of pulses, and the 10 types of pulses, the 10 types of melody are the 10 types of pulses. The 10 types of melody are the 10 types of pulses, are explained elsewhere. The 10 types of melody are the 10 types of pulses, are explained elsewhere. Likutei Moharan 2:24. Nanach, nachman, meuman. I heard all this explicitly from the rebbe, but regarding who, what, and when, what the story represents. Who, what, when, and when, what the story represents, what the characters represent, when it all takes place, it is beyond comprehension. The final chapter of this story, which would have been the 7th day about the beggar without feet, and also the conclusion of the opening story about the king, we did not merit hearing. He said that he would not tell it, and what a great loss it is that we will not merit hearing until the Messiah arrives soon in our days. Amen. The Rebbe also said, if I would know nothing other than this story, it would also be very unique. This story is a very wondrous novelty. There are many ethical lessons in it and many Torah teachings it contains. There are many ethical lessons in it and many Torah teachings. It contains many Torah ideas and speaks about many tzaddikim of ancient times. For instance, King David stood at one end of the earth and cried out to the spring that emerges from the stone on top of the mountain, as written, from the end of the earth I call out to you. When my heart is weak, guide me to a rock that rises above me. From the end of the earth I call out to you. When my heart is weak, guide me to a rock that rises above me. I heard the above directly from the Rebbe, implied in his words, that King David corresponds to a heart, represented in this story, standing at one end of the world, facing the spring, calling out, and always yearning for it, yet the meaning remains a mystery. Fortunate is he who merits grasping the secret of the story regarding King David, and the verse from the end of the earth, etc., alluded to in the story of the third day about the heart and the springing. If you delve into it, you will see wondrous things. The awesomeness of the story is beyond words and surpasses everything. Fortunate is he who merits understanding the smallest detail of it, even in the next world. But the heirs of anyone with a brain in his head will stand on edge upon looking deeply into this awesome story that gives one to understand ever slightly the greatness of our Creator and that of the true tzaddikim. Whoever heard something like this? I had heard the connection of this story of the third day to the verse from the end of the earth, explicitly from the Rebbe's holy and awesome mouth, but later found that most of this chapter in Psalms alludes to the awesome secrets of this story of the third day. Add days to the days of a king, add days to the days of a king, for he constantly needs to have days added to his life. Kindness and truth will protect him, refers to the true man of kindness for all time, and days come into existence through this great man who is the true man of kindness. He also gives an extra day, days to the days of a king, days to the days of a king. The king represented by the heart, which corresponds to King David, thus will protect him, for the true man of kindness protects him for exactly when the day is about to end. When the spring, the heart and the entire world would cease to exist, the true man of kindness comes and gives another day to the heart. This is alluded to in, I will sing to your name forever, fulfilling my vows each day, for each and every day that he gives to it. For each and every day that he gives to it comes with praise and songs, for each and every day. For each and every day that he gives to it comes with praise and songs, as is the story. As in the stove of Ori, I will take refuge in the cover of your wings. For when the heart needs to rest, the great bird comes along and spread its wings over it. Regarding the first day about the elders who each boasted about his memory. This one remembering when his umbilical cord was cut, etc. The Rebbe cited that the Talmudic sage Shmuel boasted that he remembered the pain of his own circumcision. Yerushalmi Kasubos 5. Who can praise this? Who can say anything? Who can praise this? Who can say anything? Who can assess it? Who can estimate the infinitesimal fraction of the wondrous illusions of the exceedingly awesome secrets of these stories? Who can estimate the infinitesimal fraction of the wondrous illusions of the exceedingly awesome secrets of these stories? They are filled with the deepest secrets from beginning to end, and whoever contemplates them will find some sparks of illusions. Each according to his level will find some sparks of illusions. Each according to his level. Nanach, nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, nachman meuman, nanach nachman meuman. The short stories. The imperfect chandelier. There was once a young man who left his family and country for many years and apprenticed himself to others. When he returned home, he boasted to his father that he had mastered the art of making chandeliers. He told his father to call all the craftsmen of this art, and he would display to them a piece of his work. The father went ahead and gathered all the craftsmen of this art to see his son's expertise that he had acquired during all the time he had been under apprenticeship. The son then took out a chandelier that he had made, but they all found it atrocious. The father went around to them and asked them to tell him the truth. So they could avoid telling him the truth that it was atrocious. But the son boasted, do you see my expertise in this craft? But the son boasted, do you see my expertise in this craft? His father told him that none of the others. He thought it was on the contrary, said the son, that proves my expertise. I have displayed the incompetence of each of them. The specific incompetence of each of the craftsmen present here is illustrated in this chandelier. Don't you see? In this one's opinion, this part of it is atrocious, while another part of it is very beautiful. In another's opinion, it is just the opposite. What was atrocious in the first one's opinion is wondrously beautiful in his opinion. Is wondrously beautiful in his opinion, whereas the other part is atrocious in his opinion, and the same is true of all of them. What is ugly in one's opinion is beautiful in another's, and vice versa. I intentionally made the chandelier solely from incompetence, to show them all how incompetent they are, each one in a different way. For this reason, what one sees as beautiful is incompetence. As beautiful is incompetence to the other. For this reason, what one sees as beautiful is incompetence to the other one, is incompetence to the other one. What one sees as beautiful is incompetence for the other one. For this reason, what one sees as beautiful is incompetence to the other one. If one knows the deficiencies and imperfections of something, one knows its very nature, even if one has never seen it. One knows its very nature, even if one has never seen it. Great are God's works. No two human beings are alike. The first man, Adam, embodied all forms. In fact, the very word Adam contains all these forms. The same is true of other things. In fact, the very word Adam contains all these forms. The same is true of other things, such as all types of lying are contained within the very word or. The same applies to everything in existence. The same applies to everything in existence. There are not even two identical leaves on a tree. The Rebbe spoke at great length about this idea and added that there are wisdoms in this world that could on their own won't sustain a person without eating or drinking. He then delivered a wondrous and awesome discussion on this concept. Some of those present were speaking about someone who had gone to one of the large non-Jewish cities and ended up staying there a long time in the hope that soon he would accomplish his goal. This was an ongoing story, which is why he was still there. The Rebbe commented about this and said, that is what usually happens in such situations. One thinks, now I will succeed, and later, now I will succeed. This goes on indefinitely. One thinks, now I will succeed, and later, now I will succeed. This goes on indefinitely. Nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, meuman, nanach, nachman, nachman.